Heredity and Evolution. Lecture number 2. So, coming to the introductory part of this particular lecture. In this lecture, we will be dealing about the determination of sex, evolution, speciation, tracing evolutionary relationships, fossil, and evolution by stages. Now, let us start with sex determination. Here we will learn how to determine the sex of the offspring. We are all aware that offspring is evolved from a zygote, and zygote is a combination of the sperm and the egg. Sperm is the male sex gene and egg is the female sex gene. Okay? So, you must be knowing that the human being has 23 pairs of chromosome in all. Okay? Of them, 22 pairs are autosomes and the last pair is called as a sex chromosome. So, please have a look at the diagram showing you the 23 pairs of the chromosome. Observe the last pair. Okay? So, of all the 23 pairs, the 23rd pair is a crucial one in determining the sex. The 23rd pair may either be XX or XY. If it is a double X, it's a female, and if at all it's an XY, it is a male. Know that the X comes from the mother and the Y comes from the father. Okay? To be more precise, of the two genes, the first X comes from the mother and the second X or Y comes from the father. So what can you conclude from this? So if you have an egg, the egg is always a single X. So the sex depends on which gene the male parent sperm fuses with the egg. So if the X gene of the sperm fuses, then the zygote will become a female. And if at all the Y gene of the sperm fuses, then the zygote will be a male. So it is just as simple as that. It's quite straightforward. So given below is a diagram illustrating the same thing. Please have a look. Now, let us study about evolution. So, let's start with the textbook illustration. Okay, first they have considered a group of orange and green bugs. As the green bugs couldn't be identified in the grass, the crow could only eat the orange ones. So as time passed in this way, in their group only the green ones survived, and all the orange ones became extinct. Okay, because they were all eaten by the crow. Similarly, in another case, here the orange bugs survived somehow and they only sustained till the future generations. So this example only gives us an idea of how a variation in evolution generally occurs. Okay, so there are actually many environmental factors. Given below is a diagram of the same thing which has been explained above. Please have a look at it. Now, let's define the evolution. So, it is a process by which different kinds of living organisms are believed to have developed from earlier forms during the history of the earth. Now, let us study about speciation. So let's start with the definition. It is the formation of new species and distinct species in the course of evolution. So here we will be learning how new types of species have evolved over the ages of evolution. So the variations beneficial to a species have a greater chance of flourishing in the species than the harmful or the neutral variations. A genetic drift can alter gene frequencies and small population and provide diversity without any survival benefits. Several factors like environmental and mutations etc. can cause alterations. Okay. Also, the changes occurring in the DNA of the germ cells are heritable, whereas the changes taking place in the non-reproductive tissues are not inherited. Charles Darwin proposed the evolution is occurred by natural selection. Natural selection, genetic drift, etc., can lead to speciation in sexually produced organisms. Gene flow between the members of the population prevents speciation. So, the final conclusion on this would be depending on how the evolution occurs, the speciation will be developed in the same way the evolution has occurred. For example, a dog which has been evolved from a fox. In the olden days, like not the recent ones, far olden days, there wasn't any dog present. There were only foxes. Some were very wild, some were not much wild. So people slowly started domesticating those not wild foxes. And these turned out to be domestic foxes, which are the present day dogs. Okay, now let us study about evolution and classification. So the fundamental characteristics used to classify are the presence of prokaryotic or eukaryotic cells, whether the organism is unicellular or multicellular, ability to perform photosynthesis, and the presence of endoskeleton or exoskeleton in heterotrophic organisms. And classification of living organisms is closely related to their evolution. Okay? So, as we go back in time to trace common ancestors, we find that all organisms must have arisen and radiated from a single species, which in turn originated from a non-living material. Thus, life actually arose from non-living matter. Very interesting, right? So, the study of homologous organs, for example, the hand of a man, the wing of a bird, etc., helps in tracing the evolutionary relationship between various species. Analogous organs, such as the wing of the insect, wing of a bird, do not have any common origin, but arose in different species to fulfill similar functions. Now, let us study about fossils. So, what are fossils actually? Fossils are preserved remains or traces of animals, plants, and other organisms from the remote past. So, fossils help in tracing evolutionary pathways. The age of fossil can be determined by using a relative method or isotope dating method, like carbon 14 method, C14 dating. So, given below are some of the images of a fossil. Please have a look. Okay. Now, let us study about the evolution by stages. So, evolution is not a one-step process, but is a continuous process occurring in several stages. So, complex organisms are formed slowly over many generations, sometimes with intermediate forms playing an important role. Sometimes the use of certain features gets modified with time. For example, the feathers may have provided insulation initially, but later became associated with the flight. Note that, it's very interesting. Similarly, we have another example of a wild cabbage, okay, which can be genetically modified into cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, red cabbage, kale, etc. So the epilogue of this particular lecture is never equate evolution with progress. Sometimes evolution might be dangerous. Okay, please note that. So, in this way, we would be ending our lecture. Okay, thank you for watching.